Okay, I think we've got everyone in. So welcome to this Regions in Recovery Meet the Editors session. Thank you very much for joining us for the RSA's online event extravaganza. And we're very pleased today to be talking about three of the RSA journals: Spatial and Economic Analysis, Regional Studies, Regional Science, and Territory Politics Governance. And I'm very pleased today to be joined by editors from the journal, who I will introduce you to a little bit later. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. Please stay muted until you are asked to speak. Questions can be added in the chat or asked verbally by raising your hand or using your hand raising function. We will be looking out for you, so please bear with us if there is a little delay in finding you. A little note also that this session is being recorded, so if you have any concerns about that, please let us know straight away. Otherwise, we will assume that you're happy with the recording to go ahead. Okay. Well, my name is Madeleine Hatfield. I'm very pleased to chair this session, and I have the privilege of being the journal manager for the three journals that we are going to talk about today. I'm also joined by Jenny Case, who is the journal's editorial assistant, and it is always a pleasure to join events where we get to speak to authors of the journals. We're so used to corresponding with so many people via email, and it's always a pleasure to do events like this and to meet authors and prospective authors for the journal. The format of this session is that I'm going to do just a very brief introductory presentation to introduce each of the three journals to you. You may be aware already of the journals, or you may not know very much about them. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more information about each of the three journals. I will then introduce the editors who are joining us today from each of the three journals to talk a little bit about their perspective on their journals. And then we'll open up for questions. And at first, we'll take those questions as a group in case there are any general questions about the journals or the RSA journal portfolio. But then we expect that we will, depending on numbers, depending on the discussion, we'll probably use breakout rooms to give you a chance to have a more focused discussion with the editors of the journal that you're perhaps most interested in. Before we start, I'd like to just do a little bit of a poll, just to get a bit of a sense of how much engagement you've already had with the journals and the RSA journals. So you'll see a poll pop up on your screen shortly. The poll asks, have you previously submitted an article to any of the Regional Studies Association's journals? And it asks you to please select all that apply to you. So if you've submitted to more than one, fantastic, tick all that apply. If you've not submitted to any, there's an option for that too. I'm just going to give a little bit of time for the poll to run through. Thanks for participating. Okay, the voting has slowed down. Thank you very much for your votes. I'm going to end the poll now, which should show you the results on your screen. So Regional Studies, probably the most established of the journals, is in first place there, 33% of you. But closely followed by Regional Studies, Regional Science, which is the younger of the journals that we will be talking about today. So that's great to see. Followed by Spatial Economic Analysis, Territory Politics Governance, and Area Development and Policy. Quite a lot of people haven't before submitted to the journal, so we really hope that these sessions will give you the information that you might need to join the journals as an author. So here in the Regions in Recovery, lovely branding. I love all these bright colours that we've got this year. Here are the journal covers, just to visual reminder of what the journal covers look like. We are taking these in order of the oldest of the journals that we're talking about today, Spatial Economic Analysis, which is a pioneering economics journal, and it's dedicated to the development of theory and methods in spatial economics. It's actually published both by the Regional Studies Association, but in partnership also with the British and Irish section of the Regional Science Association International. The main focus on C is about new analytical methods, particularly models and techniques of spatial data analysis and visualization. There's a little bit more information here on the screen. C is indexed in all of the sources you would expect it to be, and there's some information here too about the journal impact factors. There's more, of course, on the journal websites, and all of the journal publications can be found via the RSA webpage as well. Little information about the editors here. The editor-in-chief, Paul Elhorst, who's a professor at the University of Groningen. He is currently in a meeting, but he will be joining us very soon to talk a little bit more about C. The journal publishes a wide range of special issues, and these are both special issues that are focused on methods and applications, such as one published earlier this year, but it also publishes more thematic special issues, including topics like migration and climate change, which have been published recently. The journal is always open to special issue proposals, so feel free to get in touch with us if you're interested in submitting to the journal. There are also some examples of articles here that show the kind of range of publications in the journal, and again would encourage you to check out the journal website. That's always the best way to get a sense of a journal, is to have a look at the most recent publications. There's also an opportunity to get more involved in the journal. So currently, Spatial Economic Analysis is seeking to appoint an early career editor. The closing date is the end of August, but this is a great opportunity for an early career researcher to learn more about the publishing process, get more involved in the journal. It's a great opportunity to meet colleagues working in the area as well. The link is up there on the screen, but also all the appointments and opportunities are available on the Regional Studies Association website too. You can also engage with the journal. It's got a brand new Twitter feed, so please do, if you're on Twitter, please get involved with @SpatialEconomic. Next, we have Territory Politics Governance, which is an interdisciplinary journal committed to the development of theory and research in territorial politics and the governance of space. So it has quite a different remit in some ways to some of the other journals. There's much more focus on politics, but the focus on spatiality is something that, of course, pervades all of the Regional Studies Association journals. But it is quite interdisciplinary, and submissions often come from political scientists, geographers, sociologists, planners, etc. So it's a very wide journal. Again, there's some more information on the screen about the impact factor. It's ranked in geography and political science, and is doing great. As a relatively new journal, it's really going from strength to strength. The editor-in-chief is Professor Klaus Dodds, who's at Royal Holloway, University of London, and Deputy Editor-in-Chief Virginie Mamadouh at the University of Amsterdam has joined us today, so you will hear a little bit more from her later. You can see that all of the journals are supported by a really wide range of editorial board members, editors, which shows really the international breadth of the journals. And it's great to have the collaboration of so many scholars in these journals. If you do know anybody who's on the editorial board or know an editor, it's always a great idea to reach out to them if you have any questions about submitting to a journal. A little bit of information about some recent special issues, just to give you a flavour for the journals. So there's been one recently on urban social movements, also looking at planetary illiberal geographies. Special issue proposals are welcome to the journal. We have 3 deadlines through the years. That's just something to bear in mind if you're thinking of proposing a special issue for territory politics governance. So February, June and September, the first of those months are our kind of cut-off points to review special issues. There's a selection of articles here. The COVID-19 pandemic editorial that was published last year has been very popular, and you might want to have a look at that. Also helps to set out the agenda for the journal. And editorials are often a great way to get a little bit more insight into the kinds of papers that a journal is looking for too. And again, another great opportunity available on the journal, Territory Politics Governance is also advertising at the moment for an early career editor. Again, the deadline is 31st of August, and the same applies really. This is a great opportunity for someone who is within 5 years of the award of their PhD. It's a brilliant opportunity to get to learn more about publishing and get involved in the journal. It looks great on the CV as well. Last but not least, today we're going to talk a little bit also about regional studies, regional science. This is an interdisciplinary and fully open access journal. So the other 2 journals operate on a hybrid subscription model where authors can also pay to publish open access. Regional studies, regional science is a complete open access journal. It welcomes a really wide range of submissions on regional issues, including economics, geography, planning, political science. And there is often a focus also on helping authors to write articles that perhaps reach a little bit beyond academic boundaries, given the open access nature of the journal. The journal has a mock impact factor. It's doing very well between 1.3, 1.5. So it's particularly looking at the geography category there as well. And the downloads that we see on regional studies, regional science articles really demonstrate the value of publishing in open access journals. If as an author, you're really looking to reach a wider audience, the download figures are really, really strong on this journal. There is a long-standing call for papers for the early career mentored paper section of the journal, which again is another brilliant opportunity for getting perhaps a first publication and learning a little bit more about the publication process. The deadlines are the end of March each year and the end of September. So you'll be looking for the end of September. Again, this is for authors who have completed their PhDs in the last 5 years. And it's it's a mentored section, so you get a lot of support from editors as well in developing that paper. Some information here on the article processing charges, very transparent. There's also a discount for Regional Studies Association members of 20%. And in general, you'll find that these fees are very low for open access publications. So it's really worth having a look at the journal. It's really good value to reach a very wide audience. Very pleased today to be joined by Editor-in-Chief Steve Hincks, who I will introduce shortly. You can also see here another great range of editors and associate editors who support the journal. Journal again publishes a wide range of articles in the area of regional studies and regional science. And as I say, they receive often really great download statistics, and also the journal has a great Twitter feed, so please get involved with the journal if you're on Twitter at RSRS_OA. You may also be aware that as well as this event that's running at the moment, where there are lots and lots of great sessions to attend, the Regional Studies Association has a professional development webinar series. There are a selection of presentations free to access through registration at the RSA Lounge that will tell you also a little bit more about the publication process. So perhaps for those of you who are seeking to get their first publication or are less confident in approaching the journal peer review process, there are some really great features here in terms of how to write your article, how to target the right journal, understanding what happens through the peer review process, which we appreciate can be a little bit of a black box when starting out, first of all. There are 2 webinars forthcoming later in the year that might be interesting as well. One is about publishing a book in September, and another about publishing ethics, run with a speaker from the RSA's publishing partner, Taylor and Francis. As you probably know, there is a wider portfolio of the RSA journals. We're talking about 3 today, but next week we will have a session for regional studies and area development and policy. So please also consider joining us next week, Wednesday 9 to 11 BST, if you would like to find out more about regional studies and about area development and policy, which is the newest of the RSA journals. Okay. So that is the end of my brief presentation, just to give a little bit of background about the journals. I'm now going to invite the editors of 2 of the journals, and hopefully we will be joined by the 3rd shortly, to speak a little bit about the journals from their perspective and allow them to say a little bit more about the journals and their roles. And then after that will be the opportunity to take questions, particularly to, perhaps we'll start off with some general questions and then move on to more specific questions. So first of all, I'm very pleased to present Steve Hincks, who is the Editor-in-Chief of Regional Studies, Regional Science, and is based at the University of Sheffield. And I'm going to turn over to you, Steve, if I may, to say a little bit more. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. Hi, everyone. As Maddie said, my name's Stephen Hincks. I'm currently editor-in-chief of Regional Studies, Regional Science, and in the main section I work with another 3 editors, Jen Nellis, who's also aligned to Sheffield, but is also a North American editor, Adelheid Hall, who is based in Madrid, and we've just appointed a new editor, Mabel, who is based at the University of Manchester. And what we've tried to do with our editorial team is to span a wide range of thematic areas. We are a broad church journal, I would say, so we welcome submissions from across a range of disciplinary areas: geography, economics, planning, political science. We invite publications or submissions that are conceptual and theoretical in focus, partly descriptive as well, if they're contributing to new areas of debate. But equally, we are also really interested in advancing methodological developments within regional studies, regional science. So we have a broad readership, as Madeleine said, and we have a broad reach as well in terms of the types of audiences that we're reaching, from early careers right through to established researchers, but also a policy audience as well. Our submissions, as I say, span a range of different types, from our regional graphics, which are trying to advance some of our visualization interests in this area and in regional studies, regional science, particularly geographical information based visualizations, big data, and so on. And also right through to our early career mentored section, which is handled by an established team, as Madeleine said, of early career mentored editors. And we work across those 2 groups to ensure a quick turnaround of publication. So one of the things that we are always trying to do is to ensure that as authors submit their publications and their papers, that we review those papers quickly, and we try and turn them around within around about 60 days of submission. So we do pride ourselves, or at least try and pride ourselves, on being really quick in terms of the turnaround time. The other thing, just to I think to mention, is the way in which we are trying to deepen some of the connections across areas of regional studies, regional science that have traditionally been treated in relative silos. Either it's a regional studies debate or it's a regional science debate. And what we're trying to do is to attract papers and attract readership that cut across both of those areas of interest. So yeah, I think that's really the kind of crux of the journal, and I'm happy to talk to anyone who's interested in potentially submitting to the journal about potential submissions, and to give some guidance around the submission process, if that's helpful later on.
Thank you, Steve, and that's great. Thank you very much. I'm now going to turn to Virginie Mamadouh, who is the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Territory Politics Governance. Virginie, thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe good evening, maybe good morning. I hope that there is some diversity in the audience because of the as a kind of trade-off for the absence in physical sense. Thank you for providing this opportunity. I think it's very useful for potential authors to be able to learn a little bit more about the editorial teams, and likewise for the editors to connect to potential authors and to readers, I hope also. As Madeleine said, the editor-in-chief is Klaus Dodds, political geographer at Royal Holloway. Unfortunately, he had other obligations today at his own university. I'm a deputy editor-in-chief. When I joined the journal about a year and a half ago, as one of the associate editors. I'm a political geographer at the University of Amsterdam. And on the team, we have a mixed team of geographers and political scientists, but we welcome more diversity in the contribution. And our early career editor is an urban planner at the moment. So I'll just name the others. Maybe it rings a bell. And as Madeleine was saying, it's really important if you know someone on the board, and especially co-editors. It's really good to connect and to ask them about the fitness, whether you paper fit and how you could make it fit better to the purpose of a journal. So we have Vanessa Castanbroto at Sheffield, actually, also. Klaas Detterbeck in Göttingen in Germany. Martin Jones, Staffordshire University in the UK. Manora Munsindela at Cape Town University in South Africa. Monica Vasanagi in New York, City University of New York, and Shiwen Woon in Singapore, and then David Warsmuth in McGill University in Montreal. So we try to be welcoming for contribution from across the world, but like most Anglophone, of international but Anglophone journal, we struggle to have a more even geographical representation from scholars and from case studies from all over the world. So the journal, as Madeleine was saying, is a bit more political than the other journals of the association, but definitely focused on social spatial relations and their relation to politics and to governance. And so we're really interested in territory, politics, economy, identity issues also, and the links between territories and politics in very different times and very different places. Territorial identity and politics, geopolitics, globalization, but maybe more than the related journals like political geography or geopolitics or environmental planning or society and space. We are looking at the multi-scalar relations, and we are very much interested in multi-scalar governance, in relations between the different levels of governance. So maybe less the national, less the geopolitics, like the borders, but much more the governance, federalism, the relation between regional, local government and the national one, and a new processes also of resistance to this kind of policies, indigenous territorialities and these kind of topics. We try to be pluridisciplinary. It's mainly geography, political science, planning, urban and regional planning, development studies. Sometimes we try to look for more papers from anthropology and other humanities and others that might be interested in territorial and social relations. And like Steve was saying, I hope that we can have some interactive moment so that I can answer your question more specifically about the way we handle the papers.
Thank you very much, Virginie. That was a great introduction to the journal. I'd now like to invite anyone, if anyone has in the audience any more general questions that it would be helpful to take as a group before we move to our breakout rooms. Just while you think about your questions, because I know that there's been a lot of information to take in. A reminder that there's a lot of information about the journals available online on the journal websites. We'd always encourage you to take a look there at the aims and scope. and also recent papers published in the journal, because that's often really the best way to get a sense of the content of a journal and whether your paper might be a good fit there. And I mean, one of the things to think about sometimes, I think, is, you know, are you citing papers from the journal in your research and in your writing, and in which case it's probably going to be a really good home for your papers. But are there any questions at this stage of a more general nature before we move to our separate breakout rooms? I can't see any hands at this stage, so I think we'll move to our breakout rooms. Paul Elhorst from C will join us very soon, but I will take the C breakout room and do my best to answer any questions in that just while we wait for him. Unfortunately, I think he was teaching this afternoon, so he'll join us as soon as he can do. Otherwise, we're going to open up the breakout rooms and invite you to select the breakout room for the journal in which you are most interested, and the editors will join you there very shortly. Please just be patient while we all organise ourselves and get into the right location. But it's been a pleasure to have you all together. I hope you will join us also next week to learn about regional studies and area development and policy, and also enjoy the rest of the sessions in the conference. Thank you.